Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli with Little Blue. Check out this shirt he's got on. Pretty cool, huh? That's the first time that you're wearing this for one of our reviews.
It is.
I've got this one on. And that's right. Continuing, of course, with the Star Wars review marathon. Now, after the original trilogy, now we come to the prequel trilogy, of course, with Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, what do we have to say about The Phantom Menace? This one is heavily mixed, obviously, you know?
Yeah. I think a lot of Star Wars fans were really anxious to see
Everybody
a
was.
new movie.
Yeah. A decade after the last episode, after Return of the Jedi.
After they thought Star Wars would never be again.
But throughout the 80s, there were a couple of cartoon shows, even a couple of movies with the Ewoks.
There were.
And the comics, of course, happened.
Until this came about, Star Wars fans really had nothing to sink their teeth into other than the previous movies and the cartoons and some of those things. So,
and it wasn't until I think it was in 1994 when it was announced that Lucas he was making the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, I remember reading where he was trying to get his ideas together. He took his kids to school one morning, came home, and sat down and started writing.
Right.
And this was around 1993. So that's when it all started.
1993, say?
Yeah, it's when he first started writing and coming up with the the ideas for it.
And especially because at that point, that's when the technology really was going.
Exactly.
After say Jurassic Park and Terminator 2, that's when Lucas knew that now is the time to do the prequels.
Exactly. So he did.
And not only that, but the special edition of the original trilogy.
Right. So it was mixed reviews, yes.
Yeah, heavily mixed.
Yeah, I mean, it was...
but we're one of those people that actually do like The Phantom Menace.
Yeah,
I love Phantom Menace.
I do too. I think it's a great movie because this is where
it all begins.
This is where you get to see the Star Wars... you get to see this from the Star Wars trilogy, from the original trilogy, and from all the books that came about the Jedi and the Jedi Order. You get to see the Jedi Order. You get to see Jedis in action like you've never seen them before. The
Jedi Temple.
Yeah, exactly. But the sequence when they're in the Federation trade ship and the
Qui Gon and ObiWan
and the droid, the battle droids are coming toward him. And Obi-Wan just takes his hand and they go flying backwards. That shows you the power of the Force, how he uses the Force. And you get to see how powerful the Jedi are.
Yes.
You get to see the Jedi Council, how it all works. It's really cool.
Right. And also, because I can't ignore this, obviously, Jar Jar.
Misa don't think so.
I don't mind Jar Jar.
I don't either. He was comic relief. I thought,
and I think this is with Jar Jar because I would assume George Lucas he wanted to do a CG character,
right? But I didn't see the point in there were some things they went a little overboard with, like for instance the cartoon jump into the water when they're going down to meet the Gungans. That and then into the water.
That's how he does it.
It was a little bit.
Oh, you sir follow me now, okay day.
Yeah, it was a little bit much, But the Gungans in general, I thought they were pretty cool. I thought they were pretty well portrayed.
The world with the Gungans is really cool. underwater place.
Yeah. And the way they talked, you're in big doo-doo now, Jar Jar.
You're in big doo-doo this time.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's hey, yo there, Captain, Misa back. No, again, Jar Jar, you're going to the bossness. You're in big doo-doo this time.
Yeah.
That's how he says it. And the bossness,
Boss-nass.
We sir do not care about Naboo. Yeah. There's that bit of clicking, so...
Exactly. So like this.
Maybe we sir being friends.
All right, we're doing...
And what's his face? Brian... I forget his name, but Brian something. He's the voice of Bossness.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
Do you remember he was the leader of the birds, like the Hawks in Flash Gordon?
Yeah.
And he was I remember he was the voice of Clayton in Tarzan.
Yeah, he's a good character actor. He really is.
Yeah. And with that voice he's got,
Exactly. But I no, the Gungans didn't bother me. There were some things Jar Jar did.
There are cool things about the Gungans. There are cool things about the Gungans.
Yeah, exactly.
And how they fight the battle droids, you name it. That's the scene with the battle droids.
Exactly.
But we'll get to that later. Because Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, they save Queen Amidala, and that's where R2 comes in. And they make their way to Tatooine because they don't have enough power to get to Coruscant.
Exactly.
Hyperdrive leaking. make their way to Tatooine, and that's where we get Anakin.
Right.
They first meet Anakin and so on, and and Jake Lloyd, he was okay, don't you think?
Yeah, Jake Lloyd was good.
But there's some, with its dialogue, like, okay, remember that whole thing that I guess would get people on their nerves, like, ugh, just like, are you an angel? Just...
Yeah, there were some things that were a little bit over the top.
But I remember what Mark said about the prequels and what Mark said about Jake Lloyd. Mark said that, Jake did exactly what George wanted him to do.
Yeah, he did. He did. Much of the, and I'm jumping ahead here, but much of the, a lot of fans were very critical of Hayden Christensen's portrayal of Anakin in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Which we'll get to that later.
Exactly, but he did exactly what George wanted him to do. He followed his direction. That was how George envisioned it.
Right, and then also because with some of the other characters, like we get Anakin's mother, Shmi.
Yes,
and also Watto. I like Watto. He's pretty good. And also Darth Maul, who appears in this.
Darth Maul was...
Darth Maul and Palpatine, of course.
My favorite Sith Lord.
Right.
I love Darth Maul. Who
doesn't?
Oh my gosh. Darth Maul, he was just the epitome of cool, even though he was evil.
Right.
And, here's this Sith Lord that does, like... he's amazing. I mean, martial arts. I mean, he's got a double-edged lightsaber, and the things he does. I mean, he just so menacing looking. His face. He just reeked evil and mean. Correct. Loved him.
Yeah, who doesn't? Also, because with Palpatine, of course, because this is where Palpatine. He's what is he? I forget in this. Before he's the senator.
He was. Well, I mean, he was a senator from Naboo.
Right. Okay. He was. Naboo. But this was before. I think I got this wrong. But this is before he became chancellor.
Yeah, he became chancellor.
Yeah, he was at first a senator.
Once Chancellor Valorum's, vote of no confidence.
Played by Terrence Stamp.
Right. When he was voted out on a vote of no confidence, which Palpatine orchestrated from. Yeah. He orchestrated the whole thing to gain power. Yeah. And gain control. Yeah. And that's exactly what he did.
And Terrence Stamp was good in this, don't you think?
Terrence Stamp was very good in it. But you saw the bureaucracy. You saw how the bureaucracy worked, and how the Trade Federation had taken control, and how basically you could see too how Palpatine was. He was the puppeteer. He was controlling everything. Yep. He was controlling everything. Right. Even at that point. Right. And he even knew he would be chancellor. Yep. And then, of course, went on to become the emperor.
Yes. Also, back on Tatooine, like everything else that goes on, like Sebulba, the Doug.
Yes, the Doug.
Yep. Yokatu Bantaputu. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. And also the pod race sequence.
Pod race sequence was awesome.
Yeah, it was. It was one of the best things from the film.
Absolutely, it was. It was along the lines with the we were talking about from Return of the Jedi, the speeders, going through the forest. It was along those lines. Speed and crashes, and it was just cool, It was Star Wars.
Right.
It was Star Wars. It was terrestrial, not in space.
And Jabba appears in this.
Exactly.
You also notice another hut, which Anakin mentions Gardula. So we see a lot more of Gardula, as well as the rest of the family of Hutts in the Clone Wars.
Yes.
But also, another thing is that, I love those sequences, like, between Watto and Qui Gon,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Qui Gon, actually, Liam Neeson said that when he did those scenes, they suspended a ping pong ball in front of his face. So
they've done that. That's happened many times.
Yeah, perspective to talk to, so he was looking directly at Watto.
Yeah.
And it was also a marker for them
to put him
in for, CGI when they inserted it later.
Yeah, I think there were also, like, you look at behind the scenes, there were rehearsals with the actors, like the one who played Watto and Ahmed Best as Jar Jar,
Mm-hmm.
So rehearsals and so on. And that's the thing. Like movies, like some films, the CG characters they would have tennis balls, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like in Harry Potter, Chamber of Secrets, Daniel Radcliffe had to look at a tennis ball while talking to Dobby. He was talking to Dobby, although he was just looking at a tennis ball.
Right.
And then of course, Anakin is free, and just him and not him and his mother.
Yeah, and I saw where it was going. I knew exactly where it was going from episode 1 to episode 2.
Oh yeah, and speaking of which, C-3PO in this.
Yeah, C-3PO is introduced. We find out that Anakin actually created C-3PO.
Yeah, and in the comics, there's a comic, I think, that's like set in Empire when like 3PO, after he got shot, you know, Vader kind of reunites with 3PO, and he kind of saves 3PO's life. A bit of Anakin comes back.
I did not know about that.
You have to look that up.
You have to look it up.
Yeah, it's very interesting because a bit of Anakin comes back, you know, and in the comics, like apparently, like he has flashbacks, you know.
Right.
But anyway, and 3PO, he's like a skeleton, such like he doesn't have like the body to him, you know.
He's just a skeleton.
Yeah, we see the wires and everything else, and this is where R2 and 3PO first meet. Yep, and I beg your pardon. What do you mean naked? You know, my parts are showing. Just you know, also. When they do leave Tatooine, a bit of fight between Maul and Qui Gon, and then ObiWan and Anakin first meet.
Exactly.
Now, when you saw this, because you saw this in theaters, you know,
of course.
Excuse me, I think you told me this. Like when you saw it, everybody went nuts when Anakin and Obi-Wan finally met. When they first met.
there was applause. There was thunderous applause because then they knew that was the beginning. You know, that was
the beginning.
It was the very beginning.
Yes, and also because we first see him in the Jedi Temple, and Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu.
Exactly.
Yep, and yeah, in episode 1, like the only Jedi who are in action with their lightsabers are just Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. But that's when episode 2, which we'll get to that later. Still.
Exactly.
And then they return to remember is it the council chamber? Is that what it's called? Council center? What's that building called?
Oh boy. Are you talking about where the Senate meets?
Yes, that big mushroom kind of.
The Senate chambers.
Yeah, the ETs were in there.
Yeah, that was based on a bet that was lost that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas had between each other.
Yeah, tell the story.
Well, the story goes
and the whole thing of the ETs being in Phantom Menace.
I don't know what the bet was, but the bet was whoever lost, if Steven Spielberg lost, he had to put R2-D2 in one of his movies somewhere, and if George Lucas lost, he had to put E.T. in a Star Wars movie. So, as it turns out, George Lucas lost, so you can literally see, and it happens in the scene when they have a vote of no confidence for Chancellor Valorum.
And right before
when Queen Amidala moves for a vote of no confidence for Chancellor Valorum, you hear vote now, and you see all these delegations. If you look in the lower right-hand portion of the screen, you will see a delegation of ETs.
Right.
There's about 7 of them.
Right before we cut to the
blue pod.
And right before we cut to the blue guy saying, order!
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, E.T. phone home, E.T. phone home. Yeah. Vote now, vote now.
Vote now, vote now.
But actually in the Blu-ray release, they kind of took that dialogue out where everybody was shouting vote now. All you can hear was just like kind of shouting and clapping or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you notice that?
I didn't notice it. Actually.
I clearly do.
I can see why they did it, because there would be so many different languages there to have one unified, one unified voice shouting, vote now, vote now. It just seems like it would be a little bit.
Yeah. Also, because when they return back to Naboo, they finally become friends with the Gungans, as you know, and big sequence. 4 things going on of Naboo: lightsaber duel, Queen Amidala and Captain what's his face, but Banaka.
Yeah, Captain Banaka.
They run around through the palace, and then not only that,
the Gungans and the battle droids getting ready to face off.
The fight in space,
exactly,
with one of the starships.
Nobody but George Lucas can do that.
4 things happening,
and they all culminate, and they
work
come
well.
together.
They work
very well. That's one thing I love about Star Wars. There's so many different. There's so many different subplots going on at the same time.
See, just like in Return of the Jedi. In Return of the Jedi, 3 things was going on.
Exactly.
But in this, oh boy, 4 things.
Exactly. So it's pretty phenomenal. It takes mad skill to do that, and George Lucas is able to do it as a storyteller. It's fantastic.
Correct. And another character, because I've almost forgot to mention him, because now that I did say his name, Banaka.
Captain Banaka, he was a very good character. He was like the voice of reason for Queen Amidala. He was her right-hand man, basically. He was her trusted security guard, and I thought the actor that portrayed him did a very good job.
Right, yeah. It would have been great if we gotten more of Binaka, you know what I'm saying? He was, I'll save it for episode 2, because Binaka was at one point going to be in episode 2.
The governor of Naboo, who was just, he almost seemed powerless. He just really didn't seem to fit in to the story for some reason. He was always just...
Who again?
He was the governor. He was the one, he had the beard.
I know who you're talking about. I just can't place his name. His name starts with the letter B.
Well, he was always skeptical.
I didn't mind him.
He was always skeptical and just always, he was like the antagonist in that group, and it just,
But he was held hostage by a viceroy.
Right, exactly. I thought the sound effects of the battle droids walking,
the clinking clanking
on the stone walkway, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean, it was. I was just,
especially how the droid, what these kind of battle droids are.
Yeah, I think the coolest job at Skywalker Ranch would be the sound man, the guy that goes
Ben
out
Bird.
Collects the sound.
There's a few people I know who are great from ILM and the sound effects. Ben Bird and Gary Rystrom.
Oh my gosh, that would be a dream job.
You heard what I said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I meant Ben Bird and Gary Rystrom, they are masters.
Having a recording device with a microphone, having all that equipment, going out, collecting sounds. All you have to do is listen. And listen to special sounds.
Yes, exactly.
And it would be a fantastic job.
Okay. Also, because I did mention him too, what about Viceroy? He was okay, don't you think?
Yeah, the Viceroy, they were not CGI. They were they were actors in makeup. I didn't think...
No, they're like masks. Like
they were wearing masks.
Animatronic functions. I
didn't think the voice movement, the mouth movement with the voices went very well.
They tried.
They did.
It's the best they could have done.
And I think they tried to match the mouth movement, so you could hear some strained dialogue in there sometimes.
And fun fact, Viceroy is played by the same guy who also plays Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Who also played Kit Fisto.
Oh, really?
Yes, he
I
did.
kind of forgot.
Kit Fisto was one of my favorite Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah, the funny thing is, the only, Jedis in the temple who speak a lot are, well, of course, Yoda, Windu, and Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Yeah,
They're the only three that, from the Jedi temple and with the Jedi council members that talk.
They really are.
Yeah. Also, okay, so with 4 battles going on, the lightsaber duel, of course. Qui Gon, ObiWan, Maul. What do we have to say about that?
That lightsaber duel is one of my favorite.
And the chorus, John Williams.
Oh my God, that chorus, that music. I mean, it's fantastic. That lightsaber duel is one of the best.
You kind of found out from the soundtrack that Qui Gon is dead. Gets killed.
Yeah, I did. I bought the soundtrack, and there's a track on there that's
slightly
titled
similar to how you found out about "I'm Your Father."
Qui-Gon's funeral, and I'm like, oh, that's not an Easter egg that's just been dropped on the floor and cracked wide open. Gee whiz. I couldn't believe it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You would put that as a title and the soundtrack comes out before the movie? Really? Come on.
And Qui-Gon was a great character.
Qui-Gon was a great character.
Liam Neeson.
And I think he'll probably make an appearance in Obi-Wan.
I don't see why not, because it's very well established at the end of Revenge of the Sith, which we will get to, so.
Exactly.
And, how Maul gets defeated,
Yeah, that was...
for a while people thought he was dead, but Clone Wars showed that he was not.
Yeah, I thought that was really a stretch to bring him back to life.
the way blood was shown...
You don't really get cut in half the way he did. Literally clean in half and survive that. There's so many biological functions that are cut off when you do that I just, And, he's an alien. I granted he's an alien. Maybe they put him back together.
The dark side of the Force.
Maybe all of his vital organs are above his navel where he was cut in half. Who knows?
Yeah, but... And Qui-Gon's dying wish, he is the chosen one, and, train him.
Train him, exactly.
Yep, and the ending to it, because, Yoda, a bit of talk between Yoda, Obi-Wan, and, your apprentice Skywalker will be.
Yeah, because he says, I gave Qui-Gon, Master Yoda, I gave Qui-Gon my word.
And kept that word.
I'll train him without the consent of the council if I have to. And then Yoda says...
I gave Qui-Gon my word.
He goes, he says...
Qui-Gon's defiance I sense in you. Need that, you do not.
Agree with you, the council does. Your apprentice, Skywalker will
begrudgingly goes along with it.
Yeah, and also, this is when later, near the end, Palpatine, he does become Chancellor.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, and a funeral with Qui-Gon,
Yes.
And the last few words from Obi-Wan, Anakin, Windu, and Yoda with, you will be a Jedi, I
Mace
promise.
Windu and Yoda, look, they're talking, and he says,
Always two there are.
Yeah, always two, no more, no less. And then they
And Windu, but before that, Windu says has the last words of the film, but which was destroyed, the master or the apprentice?
Right, and then the camera pans to Palpatine standing there.
Correct.
And we know.
Yes.
We already know.
And the big celebration,
The big celebration, which was...
Well, so what? Actually, the chorus right there,
yeah,
it's actually Palpatine's theme, but kind of sped up or something.
Interesting.
Yes.
Almost like that Darth Vader theme that plays in Raiders of Indiana Jones.
Last Crusade. I can't remember if we mentioned that. I can't remember if
Donovan
we mentioned...
walks in and...
You could barely hear it.
You could.
For me, I can.
But it's audible. You can tell it.
Also, what was that? What was the celebration for again? Because they won on Naboo and peace.
They defeated the Trade Federation, and the Trade Federation lost their franchise, so they were they were defeated.
And peace came back to Naboo.
Peace came back to Naboo.
Right, and with Bosness, peace.
Right.
And
what
was with that ball he was holding?
Oh, it was some symbol of peace. Who knows?
Okay, but go ahead.
No, the Trade Federation's their blockade was broken up, and they lost their trade franchise with the through the Galactic Senate, and they were basically they were a pawn of Palpatine.
Correct, and also in this film, because still the relationship with Anakin, and Padme.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because Anakin is a little kid and Padme's clearly older,
a bit slightly in her teens,
Yeah, so he's
obvious.
About a 4 or 5 year gap there, but
And them smiling at the end.
They go after these women. They go after younger guys. So,
but when Anakin's a bit older,
Yeah, he's old. He's older.
Yeah, still
it
kind of
matches out, kind of evens out. So
yeah, there you go. Everything's better. So also, there's something remember Anakin carved Padme something.
Yeah, but he called it a poor snippet. It's really a weird pronunciation for whatever that was.
Right.
And gave it to her, and she had it all through the trilogy.
That's right. Yep. Which we'll mention a couple more times, especially for episode 3. But anyways, so any last words? Because we pretty much established everything for this.
We have good movie. I mean, it's
heavily mixed.
It's heavily mixed. It's not the best of the Star Wars movies.
No, it's not.
But it's a great start. It's a great start in the beginning, in the very beginning, to tell the story from the very beginning.
Again, we're one of those people that really love the Phantom Menace.
Yes,
and love the prequel trilogy. I do.
Yeah. And I'll go ahead and say it. I'll give
that's
it.
No lie.
I'm gonna go way out on a limb here. I'm gonna give it 10 out of 10.
I'm giving this 10 out of 10. I don't care. I'm giving this 10 out of 10 because we love it.
Yeah, I told your mom when I first saw it. She said, "Well, is it any good?" I said, "Hey, it's all that in a bag of chips." Because I was really impressed with it.
Yeah.
Then I watched a reviewer, Gene Shalit, that used to be on NBC. He gave a review, ripped it to shreds, and I said he clearly did not see the same movie that I did. So, but I get it. I get the criticisms. I get the, well, why'd they do this? Jar Jar, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I get it. But you know what? It's the beginning. It's part of the trilogy. It's part of the whole storyline.
And the beginning and the start of what goes on.
Exactly.
But with all that being said, again, we give this 10 out of 10. You name it, 2 thumbs up. We love it, and so on. You guys let us know what you think of the Phantom Menace, what you thought of our review. As always, leave comments. Any last words still?
May the Force be with you.
Yep. For me, we hope you enjoyed our review of Phantom Menace. 10 out of 10, you name it, and we'll see you guys in the next reviews, and what's next, episode 2. Stay tuned for that. Take care, peace out, and may the Force be with you.